Welcome, everybody, to the next Everything. I want to introduce you, Mike and Jama, to talk about the food sovereignty and stories of Jama Bourne, about hunting, the art of hunting. And tonight you can learn more about that and also the history and a little bit of food sovereignty from our zoo, our special guest, Dr. Whitefeather, um, Thomas Whitefeather, to talk about the health benefits of it and also demonstrate and the history of how we're going to make connected with the food and how that starts from start to finish, from actually making it on a hunt and then starting from into processing it, cutting up, and then for feeding the people. So tonight's guest, I'm very honored to start the conversation and bring the traditional ways back. And long time ago, the Lakotas, the natives, our brothers, the Cheyenne, we used to, come introducing, playing different things and meet each other on the pathways, but also the connections of our horses and bringing in those certain medicines for our people and our Cheyenne brothers and sisters. We show them how to. I think this is how we started the horse stealing from Crow stuff. Trying to show the badge of honor, but also hunting as also part of that. All these different skills, you got to start from these different skills, improve yourself, not only for your family, but to bring that honor to your nation and your band and in your Teospe, your family. So as a female or a male, you bring that together as one. So you stand with your brothers and sisters and your uncles and your grandpas and your grandmas and your mothers and life givers in the future. And at the same time, the young Dakotas, the young ones are also watching us. So every time that we go hunting or ceremonies through our songs or seeing things and hearing what we're doing, these actions, they're learning. So and that early and traditionally, and we're always it's like a continuous like a music. It's always blending, but also that continued support and love for hunting for our people. So tonight, I just want to turn it on. Any questions to start tonight's presentation? Welcome.
Yeah, Mike and I started hunting together like 4 years ago, I want to say. He's
Mm,
been my partner in crime for 12 years now. That's when him and my mom met. And uh, just one year, I wanted to go with him. So we went out and we didn't see anything for the first like 2 or 3 days, I want to say. And that last day we were down in Pine Ridge. I was just getting so frustrated, I was like, I thought this was supposed to be easy, and like
mhm.
all it is you just go out and you see one and you shoot it. And we probably put in 20 miles on foot in the Badlands. And he's like, well, let's, like we'll start walking back or whatever. And we did see some deer and we did shoot at some deer, but we didn't have any luck. And so I was really just discouraged. And here, when we were getting ready to leave, I actually shot one on the run,
Mm,
and so pumped. We took it up, showed it to my grandpa, and my grandpa was super excited. And we were on our way home, and we were sitting there talking about it, and um, like what we were gonna do with it and stuff. And Mike told me, whatever you take, you have to give. So
mm.
um, we got home, and I think I gave like 4 or 5 roasts just to like people I knew. Took some to, like, I was a college student at the time, and took some to like my friends and stuff. And so that's really where it got started. And um, after that first year, we kind of just started hunting more and more animals together, and we just started giving more and more. And um, this year we've so far, I think we've given to like 15 or 20 people, different people. And Christmas, we're going to make another run and hopefully give to about 30 to 35 people. So we probably donated 70% of our meat so far
Mm,
this year to just people in the community that could use it.
that's good. So, Mike, how did you start with the history and you showing your families to come together it's just like ongoing. Like my family, we always talk about history and what our purpose is, and then like being there for the people, being a leader, and always constantly talking about that connection with hunting and food. Um, I just like the food part. I just but but what was that like when you started to like really you know being a role model for that.
Well, back when we were kids, we were 6, 7, 8 years old. We were pretty small,
Mm,
and back in those days, my uncles and my dad, they'd all bunch up and some family friends, and we're gonna go hunting, and usually it was like on a weekend after because we didn't have school. So me and my buddies and my brothers would walk these creeks and these sloughs and all that, and then our dads and uncles would all be blocking for us, try to push deer to them.
mm,
And we're talking back in the late 60s, early 70s, and there wasn't many deer around here in those
mm,
days because everybody subsistence hunted, so
mm.
sometimes, it'd take us a couple of days sometimes to get a deer. And when we did, we'd clean it, uh, put tobacco, and uh, they'd split it all up, and everybody'd take some home. And if we had, if we got more than one, and we had excess, we'd give it, always take it to the grandmas, that's what my dad always told me, and take it to the unchies. So and we just kept up with that, throughout the years. And, me and my brothers, when we were in high school, we probably supplied deer meat to, probably half of our reservation, because that's we just kind of fell into that role. We didn't go seek it out, just kind of how it worked out.
So when you first go hunting and then do you know exactly how many, like, I mean, to cut them off, like a quarter mile or like a valley, or then after you get that, you just cut it right, do you do the process right there, right in the prairies, or you just kind of bring it back, and then do you make the clothes out of that, or with the hide and everything, or
Well, this year we started giving our hides to a guy that makes like hand drums for
mm,
like kids. We started giving our deer hides to him, and then my coworker actually makes large drums for drum groups, so that's who we gave my um, buffalo hide to. And then
ah,
the shin bones, they went to an artist, and um, it's kind of just first come first serve. Whoever said they wanted it and whoever said they needed it, that's who we gave it to.
mm. Introduce if RSU can talk a little bit about the connection of the food sovereignty part a little bit, and how that connection to the
Oh,
the hunt.
I'm sitting here feeling a little bit envious, privilege of being able to hunt. We're fisher folk, so we fish. We hunt game, maybe 2-3 times a year, but we've lost that, and it has affected our the apprenticeships with the drummers, because the biggest problem we have now is that there's no hide for the drums because we stopped hunting. And we use, even though we're in the tropics, we have deer here too. So we use mostly deer hide. The drum I have is deer. But there is a serious shortage. One, because we've taken to just killing the deer willy-nilly just because someone decided that they were a nuisance in certain parts of the world. And when I think about what's happening now and the opportunity to have meat, we have to have that protein to eat, to feed so many people. I think about all the deer that were just taken out of the way. And I hope that changes, because in going back to the hunt, then everything is in the cycle again, and it has purpose, right? The overpopulation had a lot to do with us not fulfilling our end of the relationship with the deer. So I'm very, very happy, a little bit jealous of where you guys are at right now. I don't consume deer, but I tell you what made me come, the reason I had decided to come to this from when I first saw it, because I want to learn how to make the jerky.
Oh, Jama knows all about it. You gotta
Oh
come.
yeah,
You gotta come
that's a
over.
skill. That's a survival skill. I mean,
Ah.
drying meat,
Mm.
that's part of our indigeneity. You know, not refrigeration, right? It's taking that meat, and it's always going to be a little bit excess, and we share it, but to store it in a respectful way, and to be able to have it. For us, we're going back to drying fish because we're dying from hypertension and diabetes and all kinds of things from eating canned fish because we love fish. And I would really like to share this way of indigenizing ourselves with my people, so that we learn again how to dry meat. Right? We've forgotten even how to dry fish, and salt fish. Jerky would last for what, 100 years?
Yeah, I got since I got this, I just that's all
There
I
you
can
go.
right here.
When I was with the Japanese, they have shark. They walk around with little piece of rag, it looks like a rag in their pocket, but they just peel it off and there's like little pieces of shark fin. Very nutritious part. So maybe what is that, desiccated shark liver? Very nutritious stuff. I feel that knowing these skills or returning to this ancestral knowledge is capturing our indigeneity, because it's an ancestral value, to reestablish that harmony.
I have an Inuit friend that played hockey in Nashville, and I went to visit him one time, and he pulled out some whale blubber, and I tried that, and then they were shipping it to him from home. He's from way up there in Rankin Inlet, way up in the Hudson Bay. They were sending that to him, and he was sharing it with me, and it was
That's
pretty
good stuff.
Oh my goodness.
It's good stuff. It tastes a little bit like bacon fat, only fish-y. Like it was salty. It's good.
That's
It's like fish
that's
bacon
really good, isn't
almost.
it? Oh, I love it.
But I learned to. I don't tell this story much because I was shooting a rifle, a Winchester, before I was 7. I even at one practice I dislocated a shoulder because the rifle was so big, and the boom. I guess I was holding. Not I guess. I know I was holding it wrong. I mean, I learned that day. But in our village, the girls were maybe for protection, not so much for hunt, but it was important. The elders wanted us to learn about handling a gun. They wanted us to know about hunting. And sometimes when the elders would go hunting, we would be in the house by ourselves. So we had to know how to manage a weapon. And that's another thing I think that needs to come back in a respectful way, because that's part of our tradition, right? How are you going to hunt? I also learned with the sling. We didn't use the sling to bring down birds, right? But all of these skills, we need to go back to them. For us now, we're planting a lot. The system has wanted us to stop fishing and farm tilapia, and that has been a war. Because that's like somebody taking away your deer and giving you like a cage of bunny rabbits. It's just not. It's not right. It's not right.
Yeah. So ever since I got the jerky, I don't want to eat nothing else now. I've been eating this.
Yeah.
I'm like McDonald's. No, I'm like, give me the jerky. So
maybe you can send me some.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'll send you some. Yeah. So I guess I want to bring in Thomas at this time to share some information. My brother Thomas, Dr. Thomas Whitefather, some information.
That day, hey.
Oh.
Yeah, our way of life through our foods it's just phenomenal for the health choices that we have, and that we had back in the day compared to now. We were, we had some of the best nutrition out there. we had an equal balance of vegetables and fruits and meat. So, it stands strong that we were strong people. And the buffalo, it was one of our main staples. And her and him both planted this earth. You got to figure, a lot of pictures you can see where they had the cavalry on the back of trains and stuff like that. They say that there's a million pictures, there's a million buffalo in that picture, and that's just what you can see. Just imagine what's on the backside. So, that many buffalo going from east to coast to west coast, north and south, they farmed a lot of land. They ate a lot of things and they fertilized a lot of things. So the buffalo even had a large variety of food in its muscle mass. So we were getting nothing but harmony. So with the buffalo and the salmon, like I said, with the canned fish and the farm fish, it just doesn't have the same humanity in it. The fish just, their DNA literally grow different because they don't have the proper makeup in them. And what that is creatine.
Mm.
Most animals eat plant matter, which is protein. Meat is a good substance for protein because they're eating protein. But just like in plant matter, there's no creatine, and that's what keeps our arteries open. The plant is protein and water. The water itself keeps itself open. So in us, to keep our arteries and blood vessels open, we need creatine, and you synthesize it in your own liver. So we, as a people that moved around a lot, we didn't have a lot of cars or horses. Those all came afterwards. But so we moved around a lot. So we produced a lot in our own body. We had larger blood vessels, larger arteries. We were a taller people. So the importance of bringing buffalo back to our diet is crucial to who we are. It's buffalo, they're just as important to us as our language, just as important as the air that we breathe. Plus, if we have our children start eating our own buffalo again, which is, we got cars now, so we would be a creatine deficiency, people like many other people, because everybody drives a car nowadays. And that's because the hypothalamus is what controls the body temperature in a child. That's why they say it takes 8 to 9 months for a child to start touching its face and its nose, is because it's coming together, because the mother's womb kept the baby warm.
Mm.
So that's why traditionally we swaddled them real tight. A grandmother would tell you, you wrap them as tight and as warm until they kick it off of them. So, with creatine, yeah, I mean, that's with the salmon and the wild fish and the buffalo, we were just a lot more healthier people, and our children are a lot more healthy.
Yeah, hopefully in the future, Jam and Mike can help with that to bring that creatine and that healthy to our people again. I was telling her when I got to visit for a little bit in person, was talking about the health benefits of the buffalo because some of our relatives went on a buffalo hunt and um, they didn't. They're calling me, texting me because at that time I was over in Pennsylvania. I mean, what can I do? I'm in Pennsylvania, but first thing came to our mind when I first got to meet Gemma, and it was wonderful. I'm really humbled and I'm honored that Mike and your family kind of like kept that tradition strong, and all I want to do now is just support and bring those ways back to everyone to come together with our to fight diabetes, to bring that healthy aspect to it, by running to running or riding horses. It takes energy to get on that horse, or energy to walk for donor miles, and to get that, to learn how to get from the scrape from the hides to make the bone arrows, traditionally, or just means to go hunting. But it's very vital that we have to have these, that reconnection. And I spent some time there in Crow Creek and Laura Brew, and what I seen, uh, it's very vital because some of these young men and young women are asking me, to bring that back in that humble way. But again, that's some things like Jama Mike can probably bring, have more knowledge about that in that in that scenario way to show and share how to go hunt and actually go from the first start to the last part of breaking up to jerky or steak or you know we need to encourage everybody to kind of bring that back into the healthy aspect. So as a dancer, like I went to St. Joe's, they're like, oh my gosh, how are we gonna, but I share my dance, I share my songs again. And I said, you're taking care of the future here. There are Talcojas, there somehow they got to there in St. Joe's, but in communities. But at the same time, I said, we need to reconnect with Mike and Jama, like how we and all our sisters and brothers throughout the world to reconnect with our nations and our people in that traditional way. Um, so much benefits to learn those things. So from this point forward, I guess, I'm really happy that everybody gets a chance to, we got to meet each other a little bit and I would like to have more conversations and dialogue and how that goes, and I always had a horse around with me. Um, then I went to St. Joseph, but that connection was, I didn't know there was no, I didn't get to ride a horse anymore, you know. Um, then, but now I'm at this age and time in my life that I'm actually reconnecting and reconnecting with all the ancestral knowledge and medicines and stuff, and all my wonderful sisters and brothers, bringing their knowledge as well to the circle, so we're all can bring that back. We're kind of pretty much doing the same thing. It's just we got to find support, but also encourage the young ones and everybody else to kind of bring that up to that, so we can all survive in a good way that way. But again, trying to have that encouragement to what I see the future. It was really, really amazing, the story how she grew up this way and that reconnection, and bringing that back to the picture of bringing the nutritional values back into that, and then our native ways, and our Dakota, our families, and then sharing that, being a role model that way. I can imagine that she probably got, like you get a picture of your horses there, and it's like Maria was telling me, she don't need no man. She says she can take care of a man. What I was like, I better up my game. Shoot, that kind of put me to shame here because I don't know how to do that. I mean, I know how to cut and everything, but I'm not gonna sit there and let it go. But I see a lot of deer on the road with their head cut off. It's not there, but the body, and I put a tobacco down, and every time I see like today was traveling around, we've seen three eagles. If you pay attention to um, our ancestors, they tell us where to go, just like a horse, they got the ears. And once your horse understands that where you want to go hunting, the horse also hunts for you. So he'll know exactly where you need to go. Just watch the ears and you just turn that means, okay, I need to go that way or wherever that direction may be. Um, so yeah, tell me where, do you guys go to Minnesota in Minnesota, or you go to Canada, or you just stay in this general area, or?
Yeah, we basically hunt here on Crow Creek, or we go to Pine Ridge and hunt down there. And that's basically the two places we mainly hunt. Jama shot her full elk down by Martin this year, so we were there. And the more she hunts,
yeah, if anybody has questions right now, I guess to this, questions for Jama and Mike.
Dave, I was just wondering how many other young people you know who do what you do in your community?
There's actually a little girl that lives across the river. She's like one of my inspirations right now, what's her name? Is it Logan?
Logan.
Logan and her many horses? Yeah, Logan, her many horses. She's like 12, and that girl can hunt. She's pretty cool. This year she shot a muley with her bow, and what had happened was she shot the deer, and the deer took off, I guess, and here she found the deer again. Like, I don't know if it was like later on in the week or how it played out, but she found the deer again and her arrow was still in it. So she, stalked him until she got close enough that she could shoot it. And then here she shot it again and she killed it that time. So I thought that was pretty cool. She's really the only, younger generation that I know. Yeah. Yeah. She's got a little sister that hunts too, but for the most part, they're really the only two that I know of around here that do anything of the sort. There's a lot of people that fish here, my age, but it's few and far between, I guess.
Jama, you had told Olga and I a story when we first started dialoguing about it. You had went on the hunt, and I think it was an elk that you killed. Remember when you were telling us the story about how you had the blizzard was coming and you had to try to preserve the meat because you couldn't bring the whole elk back? Could you just tell a little bit of that story? Because I think it's amazing how just instinctually Jama was able to figure out she couldn't get this whole animal back with her, and she was able to figure out how to preserve it till she could come back for it. Can you just want to tell a little bit?
Yep. So that was a mule deer, and I think it was two years ago. I had a little tiny silver car, and my grandpa was like, do not take your car off road. So I was like, okay, I will not take my car off road. So I found a trail off the highway that I took on the lookout of a badland, and I was sitting there scoping. I couldn't see anything, and I seen this little brown dot, and it was a doe. So I walked like 3 miles to this doe, didn't know if there was a buck with it, and I was one ridge cap over, and I saw a buck. So I called Mike, and I was like, there's, shaking. I was like, there's a deer, there's a deer. And he's like, well, use your best intuition. And if you think you can get him down, then, shoot him. So I was like, okay. So there was a blizzard rolling in, and it was the day before Thanksgiving. And I shot the buck, and I gutted him out, and I was like, kind of looked back up at my car, and I was like, how am I gonna get this huge animal back to my car? And no way that there was going to be enough time to do this, because there was a snowstorm coming in. And so I cut him up, quartered him out, and I was like, what am I going to do with this? The coyotes are going to get him, and it's not a good deal. So there was a little bit of snow on the ground, so I found a crease in the Badlands, and I packed it full of snow as much as I could, and I threw the legs and the back straps and all of the edible meat that I could get, and I packed it in this crease, and then I threw the hide over the top of it, and then I threw some more snow on it. And I was like, well, nobody's going to believe I did this, so I got to take the head back. So I started packing out the head, and I had to walk. It was called Frog Creek. It's a little like marshy, watery, gumbo, swampy thing. I started walking past that, and the head was weighing me down, and I got too tired. So I was like, sorry, dear, you're going in this crevice. And I stuck him in there, and I took off walking back up the Badlands, made it back to my car, and the snowstorm rolled in, and we probably got like 1.5 feet of snow. So I was like, there's no way that I'm going to get this deer, the rest of this deer out. Something's going to eat it. And I went back 2 days later, and like a mouse had gotten a little bit of the meat, you know, which isn't bad at all. And I finished packing it out, threw it in my trunk, and I hit the interstate back to Fort Thompson.
Someone is also, oh, Marie, actually, you asked a question about processing. So Jama and Mike, maybe you can share just a little bit about that, you know, about the whole process, like once you've harvested, then what are the next steps that you do with it?
So it kind of depends where we're at, I guess. If we're hunting down in Pine Ridge, we usually debone the animal right away, you know, and get them on ice as fast as we can. But when we're hunting, like here at the house, we'll go out, we'll get something, and we'll skin it out. And we got a table that we debone everything else, like debone everything on, and we separate it from what's going to be made into hamburger, what we're going to turn into jerky, what's going to be roast. And, you know, just start cutting it up, and we get our grinder out, whatever's hamburger, we grind it up, throw it in bags, and then it just goes directly into the freezer until we can either find somebody that we're going to give it to, or if we're going to turn it into jerky, I guess. Got anything to add to that?
No, you pretty well covered it. And the main thing is though is to get it on ice and cool down as quickly as possible. And it keeps really good. That way you get the heat out of it, and then we get home, and like she said, we as soon as we get home, we back up to the table and start cutting meat.
I love that. I like
So
that.
you have to do it right away, right? Like once you're cutting it up, then you really have to do whatever you're gonna do with it and store it.
Yeah, it kind of depends on what the weather is like outside too.
Mhm.
Like, when we hunt for antelope, it's a totally different story. We got to debone it right there, right after we shoot the animal, because it's like August, you know, so it's still warm. August, September, so it's still warm, and your meat can spoil a lot quicker if you don't get it on ice, you know. So that's kind of a totally different story. But deer season, you know, it's cold, it's snowy, you know, so I mean, you have a little more like flex time in like how long it is, you know, your time frame, I guess. But I mean, you still got to get it done as quick as possible.
And you also mentioned earlier that you share a lot of it with elders.
Yep.
How do you offer, or people know when they ask you, how does that usually happen?
We usually offer it to them. Usually we, like this year, how we're gonna do it is we're gonna make boxes, and we're just gonna go, you know, knock on their door and say, hey, you know, would you like a box of you know, snack sticks, jerky, roast, hamburger? You know, here it is if you want it. And
Oh,
you know,
Jamasine,
I mean, we've never had anybody decline, so we must be doing, you know, something right.
That's
cool.
wonderful. We are glad that we found you, because we would love to support this effort. Mary is asking a question. It's about lessons and stories attached to the practice of hunting for food.
Yeah, so I remember growing up on a small subsistence farm in northern Michigan, and I was only 7 or 8 years old, so my memories are, you know, kind of more like flashbacks. But one thing I kind of remembered about, there was one time a year, I guess, when we butchered animals, and was somehow like the women did a certain thing. The older women were doing something, the younger women were doing something, the men were out in the field. I remember them bringing a cow with a tractor, you know, hoisting up in the barn and cutting it and bringing the pieces in the house. And the you know, what I guess I would say were the grandmothers were cutting meat, and people were grinding meat, and we were just running around getting yelled at because we were in the way. And then my only knowledge of indigenous peoples, or even my own Celtic culture, of that type of thing where hunting season took place at a certain time, and everybody in the village played a role, or everybody in the group played a role in what was done from preparing to hunt the night before to the actual hunt, the kill, and then bringing the animals in and how the animals were processed and stories were told. And these stories seem to be deeply interwoven with the practice, the real world need for hunting and feeding the people, and the spiritual belief of the harmony between the elements, the land and the sky and the spirit, with like your story about this big animal and how you're blessed with this big animal and how to get the animal back. Well, the knowledge, I think, was in you all the time. And in that moment, you needed it. And that harmony, that connection between earth and sky, or the, you know, the power that created us inside you told you what to do. And it was exactly the right thing. It was exactly the right thing. And you preserve that meat, and you've been a blessing to your people and the elders in your community who otherwise don't have a means for procuring that kind of meat. But I mentioned this in the question I typed in the chat. When Arzu was talking about fishing, I remembered hearing a parable or a story, and I don't remember who told it. And it was something about, you know, salmon, how at some point in their development, they know to turn around and go back and swim upstream, go against the flow to go back to where they're born so that they can reproduce again. And that there's something sacred about that process. And then when the salmon run like that is when people hunt them and, you know, fish for salmon. And I'm just curious how Delwyn talked about a lot of things that have been lost, like for himself as a man, him and some of his family are dancers. And then, like, you sort of historically assume that the hunting role was for the men. And now we're in this, you know, we're in this modern age where generations are rising up and feeling the loss of these practices from all these different perspectives. Like the person who was talking about the creatine deficiency and the ecology, how abandoning hunting has created overpopulation of deer, and now Arzu's tribal people, there's an imbalance that's been created.
It's creatine.
Creatine? Creatine? How can we come together? Because this group right here, obviously, we're the ones who are interested. You know, I don't know how to hunt.
Well, you gotta sign up here. You gotta come out for Jama's class. Mike to take you out.
I'm all about it. But I also like the story you told about preserving that deer, like, gave me chills. And it made me think of these other stories. I know they exist. They're stories that were passed down for generations. How do we get them back? And how do we create this big celebratory thing around hunting where Jenna doesn't have to worry when she's in the field how she's going to get this animal back, because there's a village of people waiting for word. Hey, she got this animal. Now we're going to come in, the village, the group, the tribe, and we're going to bring this animal in and skin it, and we're going to waste no parts. And we're going to, as we're processing it, tell the stories.
We can't forget what happened in history.
There were some questions in there, I swear.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed, they weren't practices, they were participations. Like you said, everybody has a role, so that it's not practicing our culture, it's participating in our culture. And that is part of the problem is up until the 60s, you weren't allowed to speak our language or participate in anything unless you were in your 50s or 60s. So a lot of, you know, a good thing for, like we're saying, for, you know, our dancers have something, our singers have something, our drummers have something. our warriors or our food gatherers, they need something for when they have their off time. Let's have a Native Olympics.
Yeah, because a great run.
Right? Well, we used to have
Yes.
them back in the day. They'd last for 3 days.
Indigenous games.
Right.
Yes. Yes, my that's what we got to get back into it because we got to show them what's up with Crow Creek. Lower Bird,
Yeah.
what's up? Cheyenne River don't have no riders. I'm sorry to say, but I have to maybe you guys can encourage them to get back on the horse. Oglala's they do, but they ride totally to the right. I have no idea why that they go right. I don't know. The Rose Butters they go, but they keep going straight. So the sister
Look at our
towns they
runners.
go, but their horse goes like this. But it's all good.
It is. It's been passed down forever. Some of us are meant to be warriors and some are meant to be horse holders.
That's it.
Yeah. And,
But-
and Mary, to answer your
Oh,
question,
that's all
what-
kidding. That's just kidding. But I mean, when I was a kid, when, like you said, it was a big thing. It was time to hunt, and all my uncles would gather. And a lot of times we did our hunting in the summertime, when the turnips are ready, we always went out and got a couple deer. And then when the choke cherries are ready, we went out and got a couple deer and them little pheasants were ready by then, so we'd get a bunch of them
Right.
little pheasants and stuff. But like my grandmother and my mother and my aunties, they had what you call a squaw cooler. It was a shade out in front of the house, and they had a big table and underneath there, and those guys would cut that meat up and they'd have meat hanging all over the place making bapa,
Ah,
dried it right there. So I grew up with that, so that was when you were talking about it was a big family event, and I remember all that stuff.
that's awesome. Yeah, my family totally just sing. That's all we did, sing and dance. That's it. It's songs after songs after songs after songs. And we got more questions. It was great. I want to say thank you to
I have
everybody.
a question.
Yes.
My question was, do we have any idea how much healthier it is to consume meat from a hunt than it is from the supermarket, in light of all of the chemicals that are injected into all the meat that humans are consuming? Hunted meat is purer. It's better for the animal, it's better for the earth. Native Lloyd mentioned before, but just from the fact that you're bypassing the suffering of the animal, that I don't know if people know how animals are slaughtered, cows and sheep and everybody, pigs, they're slaughtered in the most unmerciful way. And so when they die like that we're consuming the flesh with that after effect, with all the toxins that they release at that moment of suffering. So the hunted, the animal from the hunted experience is far more healthier and a lot less toxic. I just wanted to say that.
Oh,
If
so
I may
true.
touch on that a little bit, what you said is true. And with a lot of the meat processing that's going on, it's a lot of female animals, which is good for females with the higher amounts of estrogen they need. And for the males, we need a higher testosterone. That's why there's a doe season and a buck season. Traditionally, there's always meat to be ate, food to be ate, but you harvest female animals for females because they need the estrogen, and the males, you hunt males to feed the males for the testosterone. That's where the tradition of castrizing the animal after you kill it, right after you kill it, is so the testosterone won't be pumping through the body. And that's where you get that wild game taste is. It's not a wild game taste, it's testosterone. So it's a lot healthier, like you said, to eat with Mother Nature.
I have one more question if we still have a few minutes. In the
Okay.
last few days, the topic of spirit release of the animal killed came up a few times. And I would love to hear a little more about that if anyone has anything to share.
we always want to say a little prayer, and Jama always makes sure we have a little bit of sage in our pocket when we go hunting. So we either put down some sage, or if I happen to have a cigarette along, which none of us are smokers, you know, so it's rarely we ever have a cigarette, but we like to put down sage or a little tobacco and say a little prayer when we harvest an animal, you know, and then we take care of it right away, as you know, as fast as we can. And it all depends, like she said, on the weather. You know, sometimes the weather doesn't cooperate with us good, but for the most part, we haven't lost an animal, and since we've been hunting together, we've always got them out. You know.
Well, in that note, I just want to say thank you, and General Mike and everybody, our zoo, my brother Thomas White Feather, and the fabulous information. You can also reach out to us by Facebook and directly, any more questions or anything like that. And then in the future, we'll be hunting with you, Gemma. So prepare yourself. I'm bringing a whole like about 1,000 people, maybe, I don't know, 500. I hope you have a lot of land or a house or something. But we're gonna have a camp, you know.
All right.
All right, sounds
And,
good. Campfire and
were-
stories.
Yeah. We'll have Gemma stories.
Yeah.
we were also discussing the possibility of maybe a little bit later on, maybe having you and Jama come back and maybe talk to us more about the processing, maybe doing some demonstrations for us, or, you know, maybe developing something along those lines. We would really love that.
Yeah, we could do something like that, definitely.
Great.
Yeah, because we
great,
don't know
thank
how to cut the quarters, and with the horn, they want to know exactly how you do it from the feet, and then you cut it in the middle, and you know all that. You know how to identify the liver, the heart, you know, stuff like that. You know what you
and
think,
how to make that great jerky. we
You know,
need the secret
so-
to that, Jama.
It's gonna be like a little process video, but I don't know who your video person is, but maybe we can find somebody to do that part, to film that, you know, that part. That's what we're kind of interested in, because maybe they want to go try hunt. But again, I recommend that you come to Jama's place first, give you the basics, and that's all I can say. I don't know what else to say. Thank you so much. And if you got more questions, feel free to touch in my phone or email or text us. And thank you, everybody.